World War II was one of the most significant and devastating conflicts in human history. It lasted from 1939 to 1945 and involved countries from almost every continent. Millions of soldiers fought on land, at sea, and in the air, while countless civilians suffered because of bombings, hunger, disease, and persecution. The war changed national borders, transformed international politics, and led to important scientific and technological developments. It also left deep emotional and economic scars that lasted for generations. Even today, people continue to study World War II because it offers valuable lessons about peace, cooperation, leadership, and the terrible consequences of hatred and aggression. The origins of World War II can be traced back to the years following World War I. The peace agreements signed after the first global conflict left many countries dissatisfied. Germany faced severe economic problems, political instability, and heavy financial penalties. At the same time, the Great Depression caused unemployment and poverty in many parts of the world. These difficult conditions created opportunities for extremist political movements to gain support. In Germany, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party promised to restore national pride, strengthen the economy, and rebuild the country's military power. As their influence grew, tensions across Europe increased rapidly. The war officially began on September 1, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany because they had promised to defend Poland. During the early years of the conflict, German forces achieved several rapid military victories by using a strategy known as blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This method combined fast-moving tanks, aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm enemy defenses before they could respond effectively. Within a short period, Germany occupied Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. These early successes made Germany appear almost unstoppable. As the conflict expanded, two major groups of countries emerged. The Axis powers included Germany, Italy, and Japan, while the Allied powers were led by Britain, the Soviet Union, the United States, China, and many other nations. Countries from Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, South America, and Oceania all became involved in different ways. Because fighting took place across several continents and oceans, World War II truly became a global conflict. Millions of people were affected, regardless of whether they lived near the main battlefields. One of the most important turning points occurred in 1941. In June, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. At first, German forces advanced quickly, but they soon faced fierce resistance, harsh winter weather, and serious supply problems. Later that year, on December 7th, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. This surprise attack caused heavy damage and led the United States to enter the war. America's industrial strength, military resources, and growing army greatly increased the power of the Allied forces. The war in Europe involved many famous battles that changed the course of history. The Battle of Britain prevented Germany from gaining control of British airspace and preparing an invasion of the United Kingdom. The Battle of Stalingrad became one of the bloodiest battles ever fought and marked a major defeat for Germany on the Eastern Front. The D-Day landings in Normandy on June 6, 1944, allowed Allied forces to establish a foothold in occupied France and begin the liberation of Western Europe. These important victories gradually weakened German military power and brought the Allies closer to final success. At the same time, fierce fighting continued in the Pacific region. Japan captured large areas during the early years of the war, but the United States and its allies slowly pushed Japanese forces back through a series of difficult island battles.
Naval engagements, such as the Battle of Midway, significantly reduced Japan's ability to continue expanding across the Pacific Ocean. Fighting often took place under extremely harsh conditions, with both soldiers and civilians facing enormous hardships. The Pacific Campaign demonstrated the determination of both sides and the high human cost of the conflict.
World War II was not only fought by soldiers. Civilians experienced enormous suffering throughout the conflict. Cities were heavily bombed, destroying homes, hospitals, schools, factories, and transportation systems. Many families were forced to leave their homes and become refugees. Food shortages, disease, and poor living conditions affected millions of people. Women often took over jobs in factories, farms, and transportation, while many men served in the military. Children also faced difficult circumstances, including evacuation, separation from family members, and limited access to education. The war changed everyday life for nearly everyone living in the affected countries. One of the darkest chapters of World War II was the Holocaust. Under Nazi rule, approximately 6 million Jewish people were murdered in a systematic campaign of persecution and genocide. In addition to Jewish victims, millions of others, including Romani people, disabled individuals, political opponents, prisoners of war, and members of other minority groups, were imprisoned or killed. Concentration camps and extermination camps became symbols of unimaginable human cruelty. After the war, the world learned more about these terrible crimes, leading to greater international efforts to protect human rights and prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Technology developed rapidly during World War II. New aircraft, tanks, submarines, radar systems, and communication equipment changed the nature of modern warfare. Medical advances also improved the treatment of wounded soldiers, saving many lives. Scientists developed more effective medicines and surgical techniques during the conflict. One of the most significant scientific achievements was the creation of the atomic bomb through the Manhattan Project. Although this represented an extraordinary technological breakthrough, it also introduced one of the most destructive weapons ever invented. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The explosions caused massive destruction and resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people almost immediately. Many more later died from injuries and radiation-related illnesses. Shortly afterward, Japan announced its surrender, bringing World War II to an end. The use of atomic weapons remains one of the most debated decisions in modern history. Some argue that it shortened the war and prevented even greater loss of life, while others believe that such devastating weapons should never have been used against civilian populations. The end of the war brought major political changes around the world. Germany was divided into different occupation zones, while many countries began rebuilding their damaged economies and infrastructure. In 1945, the United Nations was established to encourage international cooperation and reduce the risk of future global conflicts. Although the organization has faced many challenges, it continues to play an important role in promoting peace, humanitarian assistance, and diplomatic dialogue. The war also contributed to the beginning of the Cold War, a long period of political tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. The economic impact of World War II was enormous. Entire cities had to be rebuilt, industries needed to recover, and millions of displaced people required food, housing, and employment. Some countries received financial assistance through programs such as the Marshall Plan, which helped support economic recovery in Western Europe. Over time, rebuilding efforts contributed to significant industrial growth and improved living standards in many regions. However, the emotional and psychological effects of the war continued long after physical reconstruction had been completed. World War II also influenced culture, education, and historical research. Thousands of books, films, documentaries, museums, and memorials have been created to preserve the memory of those who lived through the conflict. Survivors have shared personal experiences that help younger generations understand both the courage and the suffering of that period. Schools around the world teach students about the causes and consequences of the war so that future generations can learn from history rather than repeat its mistakes. Remembering the experiences of ordinary people remains just as important as studying military strategies and political decisions. Overall, World War II was a conflict that reshaped the modern world in countless ways. It affected nearly every continent, caused enormous destruction, and changed the lives of millions of people forever. At the same time, it encouraged international cooperation, scientific progress, and stronger efforts to protect peace and human rights. Although many decades have passed since the fighting ended, the lessons of World War II remain highly relevant today. Understanding its history helps people appreciate the value of diplomacy, respect for human dignity, and peaceful cooperation between nations. By remembering both the achievements and the tragedies of this period, humanity can continue working toward a future in which such a devastating global conflict never happens again.